Hey, it's Jessie from Squeegee Link, and in this video I'm going to refresh my dip tank with the Franmar One Step Clear in hopes that it helps us pass our water regulation inspection. To give a little bit of context, we've recently received this letter from our local water provider, and there is a lot of jargon in here, but to round up some of the main points, what they're going to do is an inspection, and they're looking for things in line with the Section 3 of the 1974 Health and Safety and Work Act with regards to our water supply, consumption and our plumbing systems. The purpose is to prevent misuse, waste, undue consumption and erroneous measurement of water, and most importantly to prevent contamination of drinking water. This is something that can happen to any business at any time. We've been anticipating it and we've always been above board. However, we have been anticipating that we needed to refresh our dip tank anyway, and it would be a really good time to actually do that now so that all our chemicals are fresh and we've got all the current paperwork available for the inspector when they come around. So I'm going to walk you through all the steps that we're going to go through in order to make sure that we pass this water inspection. To be clear, I am not a qualified plumber. This is just information that I've learned from running the screen print studio. So when most screen printers get a water inspection, their mind quickly goes to all the things that they've been putting down the drain. However, this is only half the subject. You need to think about your wholesome water supply and the things you're putting down the drain. The wholesome water supply is all the water that's being supplied to you through the taps. That's the stuff that you're using to wash your hands, do all your processing, and even wash the dishes. So as a screen printer, you need to think about both your wholesome water and what's going down your drains. From reading our letter and thinking about what they seem to be looking at in terms of our space and what our inspection seems to be involving, they're looking at water consumption. So that's a really good point for why we'd want to use a dip tank as well. And it's a reason why we're going to be refreshing our tank, because our old tank is actually getting less and less potent. So dip tanks are far more economical with water consumption than hand washing your screens, because you just use a lot more water when you do it that way. So that's a really great point. The second thing is that all of our plumbing is done to a high standard. So we are going to be looking at our entire system, the whole inlet of the wholesome water right through to where the water leaves our premises. And thirdly, we are going to be looking into having all of the chemicals that interact with the water system. We're going to look at every single one of them, and we're going to have all the data sheets and paperwork ready for if the inspector wants to look through those. I've been wanting to switch the dip tank out to the One Step Clear for ages anyway, and this is because it will work well with all the other chemicals that I've already got from Franmar. So like the degreaser, the dehazer, and I think it's much better to have all the chemistry working together harmoniously and not throwing in another brand's chemical in the dip tank like I'm doing at the moment with the Easy Way. So now that the Easy Way concoction is all not working very well, this is the perfect time to swap it out and have the whole range from one company. If you need a video on how to set up a dip tank, I've done some really thorough ones and you can search for those on the channel. But otherwise, just kick back and watch us set up this Franmar one. To be clear, what I've purchased in this kind of setup is the One Step Clear 2.5 gallons. I got two because my tank is 25 gallons and I've estimated that the 1:6 ratio means that I need about 3.5 gallons of this solution, which is good because then I've got a little bit spare to do some shocks when it eventually starts becoming less potent. And I've also got the One Step Clear neutralizer. So when the tank is completely dead and it's just not really stripping your emulsion anymore, you add this, leave it overnight, and then it neutralizes the pH level of the solution to make it drain safe. And this just kind of will go along with all the other things that I already do day to day. So I always use the screen degreaser. I've got the unlock for those unfortunate kind of customers who've locked their screens in. That's often actually by mixing different chemicals together that shouldn't be working together. And we use the adhesive remover if they've got some gnarly tape on the edges. I use normal screen tape, so that's not a problem I have in my studio. And we have haze remover. I sometimes use that if I've been really lazy with a screen and left it on too long and it's kind of left a kind of, ghosting. Then we have colour change. That's typically used on press, but sometimes I use that when I'm just rinsing off some plaster ink that I might store the screen with. And we've got obviously the plaster ink remover, and that's heavily used. I actually also decant all of these chemicals from those boxes. So I just use the little tap on the box, keep topping up my chemicals, and I just use these sprays over and over again, and that's why they look horrendous like that. If you're thinking about upgrading your system, I've gone through lots of different chemicals, and the Franmar ones are just really nice to work with. I don't feel like I'm inhaling as many toxic chemicals as I used to, especially when I first started and I didn't know anything about the health and safety aspect of it. So you can get your chemicals in the UK from Screen Print World, and you can use the discount code CRP5 to get some money off your chemical range. While we're on the subject of screen printing, today's video is actually sponsored by Adobe Creative Suite, and this is the set of programs that we use in the studio all the time. We use Illustrator to create vector artworks, we use Photoshop to edit images, and if we're designing from scratch, we use Adobe Fresco on the iPad. If you want to support the channel and get a massive discount on your Adobe products and software, then click the link in the description below to get some money off. The dip tank wasn't the only thing we did to prepare for our water inspection. This did mean that we had all our data sheets available, but we also did go around and look at all our taps, make sure none of those are leaking, make sure that our drains were flowing out nicely, and finally we had a word with our plumber who did all the plumbing installation initially. And we just basically talked to him about two-way valves and made sure that we had enough in the building to cover the inspection. And these are quite simply something that helps the water not flow back into the system. So for example, you get your wholesome water from the company, that comes through your taps, and sometimes it can get into your system, get contaminated by some chemicals or pumps or anything that you have going on in your system, and the water can actually get sucked back into the wholesome water supply and then go into other people's taps. So making sure you've got your two-way valves is actually quite a simple but effective way to stop any water getting back out of your system. So we did have to talk to a plumber about that, and they were the main things that we looked at to prepare. So the big question is, did we pass our water inspection? And the answer is no, we actually didn't. We had an advisory which was nothing to do with our side of the building. So we share the premises with some offices, and they failed the water inspection by not having a plug in their sink during the inspection. And the randomness of this is that he was looking into water consumption, and you have to have a plug in your sink at least available to the person washing their hands, so they can assess how much water they're using while they wash their hands, and then they're supposed to take the plug out. It's completely bizarre and I don't get it myself. We even had the plug in the little cupboard underneath, but because it wasn't in the sink at the time of the inspection, they actually failed us as a whole. So he's going to come back in a week and we're definitely going to have that plug in ready for him, and then we should be passing fully and be completely clear. Also, just a side note, he actually thought the Franmar stuff was completely fine, didn't break any protocols that are in place or anything like that. So we're completely knowing that we're doing the right thing to the best of our ability, and as long as we keep on top of maintenance, we should be good to go. Please like, follow and subscribe our channel as it's growing, and also check out our dip tank videos if you're setting up your dip tank from scratch.